The Gemara in Arei Pesachim states that there are 4 key parts to the Seder, that each of them are given particular emphasis and chashivus and added significance by attaching a kos shel bracha to these parts of the Seder. One is Kiddush, the other is Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, Magid, the third is Birchas Hamazon, and finally Halel. We're going to discuss a little bit about Halel tonight, but obviously it's a key part to the Seder night. And many questions have been asked about the nature of this Halel. It's obviously unique in that it's recited at night. But we also have Halel at night in Tefillah, many Kehilos. On Pesach, the first night, we have it in Tefillah as well. But here we have an interesting Halel that is recited not in the context of Tefillah. It does not have a bracha attached to it, which the question is why not. It also is split in half. It's split in half. This Halel is broken up. We have B'seis Yisrael, Mitzrayim, and Lo Lanu recited right after the Magid, and then only later on do we have the end of the Halel, which is attached to the bracha. So the Halel is sort of in between. We talk about Halel, even though Halel we see in the Seder Barech and then Halel, really you have Halel before Rachza. You have Halel after Magid. What is that? What is that split? What is that all about? So the Halel that we normally have in Tefillah is a Halel. It's a formulation and a takana. It might be d'oraisa, but the way it's established is in the format of Tefillah with a bracha, as a command. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kisham v'tzivanu. That classic Birchas HaMitzvah is recited before Halel is because there's a command and we do it and it's a formal mitzvah. But there's another type of Halel that is recited. The Gemara says that Chizkiyahu HaMelech could have been, should have been the Melech HaMashiach when he held back Sancherev, when Sancherev went ahead and destroyed Malchus Yisrael, and he was coming after Chizkiyahu and Yerushalayim, and Chizkiyahu HaMelech held off Sancherev. Chazal say that he could have been Mashiach, but he didn't recite Halel. He did not recite Halel. Now that Halel that he should have recited, was that a Halel that he should have recited with a bracha? Was that a Halel that he, right, if he would have recited it, he would have said, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam? No. That's a different type of Halel. That's a Halel, it's a spontaneous Halel that's not commemorating something. It's not a Halel that a particular moed triggers, particularly Yom Tov triggers, but rather it's the spontaneous Halel that one recites when one experiences salvation. And we're not talking about the commemoration of such salvation that we recite, let's say, on Hanukkah, but rather we're talking about the spontaneous Halel. And that's really what's going on here at the Seder. Because at the Seder, Halel, that first part of Halel, is really fused together with the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that's why we say Lefichach. We're chayiv l'hodos right after we finish Magid. It really is part of Magid, because we say the bracha of Magid after the Halel. Lefichach, we're chayiv l'hodos, because part of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, as many of you know, is laharos etz atzmo. And that's why it says lefichach. Since we're chayiv laharos etz atzmo, we're chayiv l'hodos l'halel. Since we're chayiv to not only remember and commemorate the going out of Yeshivat Mitzrayim, we're supposed to be experiencing it as if we ourselves every year left Mitzrayim. And it's supposed to reach this crescendo as if we now are feeling that we have left Mitzrayim, and therefore a spontaneous Halel is required. And that's why it is only these two sections of B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim L'olanu, which is connected up to B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim. It's that Halel which, right, is very similar to the Az Yashir, which is a good question why we don't recite Az Yashir. It might have been even more appropriate over here. But again, since there's a mitzvah of Halel overall, so we say Halel, but we say the parts that are connected to Magid, that are part of Magid, because that's the spontaneous aspect of Halel. And in a certain sense, we're also reciting that type of Halel at the end, because the end of Halel, the Halel at the end, after Barech, is really a Halel that represents the Halel of the future, the Halel of our future.